The stars shimmered like distant lanterns, but tonight, they burned with the light of 1,000 dying ships. Out in the cold dark near the third planet of the Kepler system, two massive fleets floated in a tense standoff. They faced each other like ancient champions, battle-scarred, weary, yet unwilling to yield. The war had dragged on for 3 long years. And while both sides were exhausted, surrender was not on the table. On the bridge of his imposing flagship, Commander Zector stood tall, his gaze fixed on the main screen. Through the reinforced viewport, he studied the enemy fleet with sharp, calculating eyes. His forearms moved with practiced precision over the control panels, checking weapon statuses one last time. The hegemony had sent him here with 200 of their best warships. Today, he would either end this war, or fall with his fleet. "Sir, all ships report ready," his weapons officer announced, voice trembling just enough to reveal the fear underneath. Even after 3 years of space combat, the sight of hundreds of enemy vessels was enough to unnerve any soldier. Zector's species had explored the stars for over 1,000 years. They'd built a sprawling empire across 50 star systems, trading, colonizing, building. But war like this. They had never seen anything like it. Galactic wars weren't supposed to last. A few battles, some strategic posturing, a peace treaty signed under pressure. That's how it always went. Not this time. Across the void, on the bridge of her own flagship, Admiral Velnara of the Free Worlds Alliance checked her fleet status. Her ships floated in perfect formation, sleek and agile, primed for rapid strikes. She had fought Zector more times than she could count. They had learned each other's patterns, moves, hesitations. This was not just a fight of firepower. It was a battle of minds. "They're holding formation," her sensor officer said. "They're waiting for us to make the first move." Velnara allowed herself a smile, the cool blue of her skin deepening into a soft purple hue. That was how her species showed amusement. "Of course they are," she murmured. "Zector's cautious. He won't strike unless he's sure of victory." The Alliance ships, lighter and faster, were scattered across a wide arc, perfect for swift flanking attacks. But the hegemony's vessels were heavier, built for slugging it out in direct combat. It was brains versus brawn. Speed against strength. In the silence between the fleets, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Soon, that silence would shatter, filled with the thunder of missiles, the hum of energy beams, and the screams of ships torn apart. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, would die before the battle ended. But both commanders knew, this war had gone too far to back down now. Zector studied his tactical display. His numbers had a slight edge, but Velnara was no fool. She could be hiding ships behind the nearby moon or cloaked in debris fields. He had learned not to trust what his sensors told him. "Begin attack pattern," he said calmly. "All ships advance on my command." The massive hegemony fleet began to move, slow, deliberate, disciplined. Their capital ships formed a dense core, shields overlapping to create a nearly impenetrable wall. It was an old tactic, but a deadly one. The Alliance would have to come to them, or risk letting the hegemony push deeper into their territory. Back on the Alliance flagship, Velnara saw the movement and gave a single nod. "Signal all units. Execute Plan 7. Her fleet responded instantly, breaking into 3 divisions. The main force surged forward for a direct assault, while 2 flanking wings began sweeping wide, preparing to strike from the sides. It was bold, risky even. But it might just level the playing field. As the 2 fleets edged closer, energy pulsed through every ship. Shields powered to maximum. Weapons began their charge cycles. Crews braced themselves, murmuring final prayers, or staring at holopictures of families left behind. Then, everything changed. New contact. Zector's sensor officer suddenly shouted. Unidentified vessel entering the system. Sector 7. Zector's head snapped around. Show me. The main screen flickered. A single ship appeared near the system's edge, small, blocky, and slow. It didn't match any known fleet configurations. No elegant curves of hegemony engineering, none of the streamlined grace of Alliance design. It looked crude. On Velnara's ship, her own officers were seeing the same thing. Just one ship? She asked. Yes, Admiral, her science officer confirmed. And it's heading straight toward us. No ID match. Design is unknown. Velnara's eyes narrowed. In the middle of their most important battle, a mystery ship had appeared, alone. Who would send a single ship into a war zone? Could it be one of Zector's weapons? She asked aloud. Her chief engineer shook their head. Unlikely. The engine signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's using technology we've never seen before. Zector had come to the same conclusion. It's not ours. But it's not Alliance either. His voice dropped. Something new has entered the game. The strange ship kept moving closer, slow, deliberate. It didn't charge weapons. It didn't raise shields. It simply floated, unarmed and unbothered, toward the battlefield. For the first time in 3 years, both commanders were facing a question they couldn't answer. They had prepared for war, each knew the other's tactics inside and out. But neither had a plan for this. What are your orders, sir? Zector's weapons officer asked. Zector didn't reply right away. He stared at the unknown ship, then at the Alliance fleet. This battle could wait, if only for a moment. They needed answers. Hold position, he said. All ships on alert, but do not fire. We need to know who they are, and what they want. On the other side of the battlefield, Velnara gave similar orders. The Free Worlds Alliance fleet halted mid-charge. For the first time in months, both sides lowered their weapons, not in peace, but in shared uncertainty. The strange vessel glided toward the heart of the standoff. Neither commander knew it yet, but in the next few minutes, everything was about to change. Because the galaxy was about to meet humanity.
Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Independence, his eyes locked on the stars outside as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 6 months of deep space travel, they'd finally reached their target, the Kepler system. Another star, another cluster of planets. Supposedly uninhabited. Jump complete, Captain, said Chief Engineer Lisa Park, glancing up from her console. All systems nominal. We're at the outer edge of the system. Jake gave a quiet nod. The crew around him, 45 brave souls, had all volunteered knowing full well they might never see Earth again. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their mission, to seek out life, maybe even civilizations. The Independence was one of only 5 ships humanity had built for deep space exploration. This was mankind's biggest step into the unknown. Start scanning the system, Jake said to his tactical officer, Ryan Cole. Ryan, a former naval officer turned space explorer, tapped into the ship's powerful sensor arrays. As the data streamed in, he frowned. Captain, we've got something strange, he said slowly. I'm picking up a ton of energy signatures, way more than we should see in a system like this. Jake walked over, brows furrowed. On the tactical screen, the inner system lit up with dozens, no, hundreds, of glowing dots. Those aren't stars or planets, Ryan said. They're ships. Jake turned to Amy Foster, their comms specialist, the youngest on the bridge and the most gifted with languages, human and machine alike. Amy, he said, you seeing this? She leaned over her console, eyes wide. Those energy readings are moving. They're not natural. Definitely ships. Lots of them. Silence fell over the bridge. They had come looking for alien life. Instead, they had found an alien war. How many ships? Jake asked. Ryan swallowed. At least 400. Two distinct groups. They're arrayed near the third planet, in combat formation. Dr. Helen Cruz, their science officer, looked up from her station. She'd spent years studying the stars and preparing for first contact. "Captain," she said, "this looks like a war zone. We've arrived in the middle of an active military engagement." Jake felt his heartbeat pick up. They weren't trained for this. "Lisa," he said, "how fast can we jump back out?" Lisa checked her panel. "Jump drive needs 30 minutes to recharge, sir. Until then, we're stuck." The realization hit them all. They were trapped in a battlefield between two alien powers, totally uninvited and badly outgunned. "Ryan, are they reacting to us?" Jake asked. Ryan studied the screen. "Not yet. But I wouldn't bet on that lasting long." Jake turned to Amy. "Start broadcasting a general signal. Simple math. Physics. Anything to show we're intelligent and not a threat." "Yes, Captain," she said, already typing. "Transmitting now." "Ryan," Jake said, "start a slow approach. Keep us out of weapons range, but close enough that they see us. I want them to know we're not hiding." Lisa blinked. "Captain, are you serious? What if they think we're hostile?" Jake looked around. His crew was scared, but they trusted him. And he trusted them. "We didn't come all this way just to turn around," he said. "Earth sent us here to explore. Well, we found something. And the whole planet is counting on us to figure out what." The Independents began drifting closer to the alien fleets, broadcasting peaceful messages into the void. As they approached, the sensors sharpened. The alien ships were enormous, sleek and terrifying, bristling with weapons. Some of them were larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Captain," Ryan called out. "One of the fleets is breaking formation. 6 ships, coming straight for us." Jake felt the tension rise in his chest. "Weapons hot?" "They're not responding to hails," Ryan said. "They're moving fast. ETA, 2 minutes. "Lisa, give me all we've got on the engines," Jake said. "Ryan, bring up every defense system we've got." "But Captain," Ryan said, "our weapons are mining lasers. Debris sweepers. They're not meant for combat." "Then we make them work," Jake said. "We're not going down without trying." The alien fighters closed in, sleek, aggressive, designed for war. Their squad leader, Kixara, had fought dozens of battles. This strange vessel? It looked primitive. Easy pickings. "All fighters," Kixara said, "target engines. Disable, then destroy." The aliens opened fire. Energy beams lit the darkness, but the Independents fired back. Ryan had activated every mining tool, every laser, every projectile launcher the ship had. They weren't elegant, but they worked. Unlike alien weapons that relied on precision energy shots, the human ship unleashed a storm of projectiles, dozens every second. Kixara's fighters weren't ready. Their shields, designed for powerful but occasional strikes, couldn't handle the sheer volume of fire. One fighter exploded almost instantly. Another spiraled out of control. The rest pulled back in shock. "Retreat!" Kixara shouted. "It's not helpless, it's a trap." The Independents didn't chase. It just hovered, silent and strong, daring the next move. On both alien flagships, commanders stared at their screens in disbelief. Commander Zector's voice was low and angry. "How did a single ship defeat my best squadron?" Across the void, Admiral Velnara was just as stunned. "That wasn't random. That was deliberate. They knew how to counter our weapons." Jake and his crew celebrated quietly. They were alive. Barely. "Any response to our broadcasts?" Jake asked. Amy nodded. "Yes, sir. Both fleets are sending us messages now. The translation system is trying to keep up." Dr. Cruz spoke up. Captain, I've been analyzing the alien attack patterns. They didn't try to destroy us. Their shots were aimed to disable. Controlled, precise. Jake looked at the battle footage. She was right. The aliens could have vaporized the ship, but they didn't. They don't fight like we do, Jake said. Amy turned from her console. Captain, one of the fleets, calling themselves the Free Worlds Alliance, has established contact. Her voice played through the speakers, translated into English. Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Velnara of the Free Worlds Alliance. Identify yourself and state your intentions. Jake cleared his throat. He'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. But never like this. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Nations ship Independence. We come from the planet Earth. We mean no harm. There was a pause, then Velnara's reply. Earth? We have no records of such a world. Are you refugees from the war? No, Jake answered. We're explorers. We didn't know there was a war here. Another long pause. Then, you flew a single ship into an active war zone, to explore? Are all your people this brave? Or this foolish? Before Jake could reply, a second voice crackled through the speakers. Alliance ship Independence, this is Commander Zector of the Hegemony. You've interfered in a military operation. Explain your presence. Jake sighed. 2 fleets. 2 powers. Both confused. Both watching. We are peaceful explorers, Jake repeated. We were sent to discover new worlds. To meet other civilizations. Zector's voice turned sharp. Peaceful? You just destroyed 2 of my fighters. Jake winced. They attacked us. We only defended ourselves. Back on the Independence, Helen Cruz studied the recordings of the alien attack. Captain, I've got something you need to see. She pointed at her screen. They didn't aim at our crew quarters. Just our engines. They didn't want to kill us. Jake nodded slowly. They're not like us. They don't fight to destroy. On the alien ships, similar conversations were happening. Scientists and engineers pored over the strange human ship's data. Its weapons, its speed, its build, it didn't look like a warship. But it had just driven off an elite squadron. And worst of all, it had done so without trying to kill. Captain Morrison, Admiral Velnara said, we would like to know more about your world. About your people.
Jake glanced around the bridge. Every eye was on him. We're from a planet called Earth, he said. Many nations, many peoples. But we've come together to explore space. To learn. To understand. Zector cut in. How many nations? Jake hesitated. About 200. Both alien commanders fell silent. 200 governments. Zector asked. How do you avoid war? Jake glanced at Helen. She gave him a sad look. Sometimes, we don't, Jake said quietly. How many wars has your species fought? Velnara asked. Jake turned to Helen again. She shook her head. We've lost count, Jake said. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. What followed was not just silence. It was shock. The aliens had been fighting one war, for 3 years. And it had almost destroyed them. Humans. They had been doing it, for millennia. The bridge of the Independence was quiet now, not with fear, but the kind of stillness that follows revelation. Captain Jake Morrison had just told 2 alien superpowers that humanity had fought thousands of wars throughout its history. And they hadn't just survived, they'd built a civilization that stretched into space. Over the comms, Admiral Velnara's voice came back, slower, more deliberate. Are you saying, your species has lived in conflict for your entire existence? Jake didn't flinch. Not always. We've had times of peace. But yes, war has been part of who we are for most of our recorded history. Commander Zector's voice followed, laced with disbelief. And you still exist? You're still standing? We've done more than survive, Jake replied. We've grown. Learned. Every war taught us something. About resilience. About unity. About when to stop fighting. Dr. Cruz, monitoring the alien fleets, suddenly leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Captain. The fleets are repositioning. Toward us? Jake asked. Toward each other, she said. But not in attack formations. Defensive. Almost like they're drawing closer for protection. Amy Foster was listening to the alien comms, her fingers flying across the translation interface. Captain, she said, her voice quiet. They're talking to each other now. Not about fighting. About us. Jake's heart raced. What are they saying? Amy scanned the data. It's rough, but they're wondering if there are more like us out there. Other species. Other war-torn civilizations. They're scared, Captain. Not of us, but of what we represent. And that's when the message came in. Captain, Ryan said, we've got incoming. 4 ships, fast. Jump signature matches our own. Jake turned sharply. Human ships. Confirmed, Ryan said. ETA 3 days. Amy raised her head. Incoming transmission. It's Admiral Patricia Kane aboard the UNS Defiance. Jake's stomach did a flip. Admiral Kane was a legend. He'd served under her once. Tough as steel and just as sharp. Put her through, Jake said. Kane's voice crackled to life, confident and cool. Jake, we received your first reports. Earth sending a task force to support your mission. What's your situation? Jake took a deep breath. Admiral, we've made contact with 2 alien civilizations. They're at war. And, they've asked us to help negotiate peace. There was a pause on the line. Then, Kane laughed. You're telling me the first aliens we meet want us to stop their war? Yes, ma'am. Well, damn. That's a first. We'll be there in 3 days. Try not to start another war while we're en route. The call ended. Jake turned back to the bridge. Commander Zector's voice returned on the open channel. Captain Morrison. These other ships, are they warships? Jake chose his words carefully. They're built for exploration. But like ours, they're equipped to defend themselves if necessary. Admiral Velnara's voice joined in. How many of your ships are there? Jake was honest. Only 5 capable of deep space travel. We're a young species in the galaxy. Another long pause. Then, how many ships did your people use in your planetary wars? Jake blinked. None. Until recently, all of our wars were fought on the surface of Earth. You fought thousands of wars, on a single planet? Zector asked. That's right, Jake said. We learned how to fight, and how to stop fighting, while sharing the same small world. Velnara spoke slowly. That explains everything. Dr. Cruz pointed to the tactical display. Captain, look. Jake stared at the screen. What he saw was impossible. Both alien fleets had completely disengaged. No weapons powered. No aggressive movements. Instead, the ships drifted into neutral positions, spaced evenly, as if waiting for something. Amy? Jake asked. They're still talking to each other, she said. Trying to figure out what this all means. Whether they should end the war. And then, the question came. Captain Morrison, Admiral Velnara said, if your people have such experience with war, tell us. How do you end one? Jake closed his eyes for a moment. In human history, wars end in many ways. One side wins. Both sides exhaust each other. Sometimes, both sides lose. But peace comes when enemies decide to stop killing and start listening. When they realize there's more to gain by working together. Zector's voice cut in, a little softer. And how do you forgive? You remember that your enemy is someone who was once afraid, Jake said. And that fear can become trust, if someone's brave enough to take the first step. The bridge was silent. Then, Amy looked up. Sir. They're asking for something. What is it? Jake asked. They want us to be observers. To guide the first negotiation talks. Jake looked around at his crew. Tell them we accept. 3 days later, the UNS Defiance and the other ships of Earth's fleet arrived. Together with the Independence, they helped mediate the galaxy's first interstellar peace summit. Representatives from both the Hegemony and the Free Worlds Alliance met, face to face, for the first time since the war began. There were arguments. Accusations. Tears. But slowly, progress. Over time, treaties were drafted. Demilitarized zones established. Shared science programs created. And above it all, Earth became a symbol, not of power, but of wisdom born from pain. Humanity didn't bring peace with weapons. They brought it with scars. And the aliens listened. Because they realized that a species that had fought itself for thousands of years, might be the only ones who knew how to stop. Years later, a monument stood in orbit above Kepler 3. A ring of ships. One from each side of the war, and one from Earth. A symbol of peace. Of unity. At its center, a single plaque bore the inscription, "We came as explorers. We became messengers. We found war, and left peace." And in the vast silence of space, that message echoed for all to hear.